Good morning, Galaxians, and welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. It's been a minute if you forgot. My name's Ryan, and I'm going to be your host. Welcome back. I hope everybody's doing well. There have been a couple of announcements over at Etsy and at Poshmark that I thought were kind of interesting, so I thought it was time that we reconvened for a little live chat and talked about what's going on over at those sites. There's been a ton of other stuff obviously going on, so anything else you would like to discuss, let me know over in the chat if you're watching live, or in the comments if you happen to be watching on Team Replay. Before we hop into that, you may remember that I'm riding this month in the Great Cycle Challenge to raise money for the Children's Cancer Research Fund. And I wanted to give you a quick update on that, just in case you are not following my other channel. You may recall when I started that thing, I was trying to raise $1,000 and I had pledged 300 miles. And I said for every additional $500 I raised, I would increase my ride goal by 50 miles. Well, I have raised so far $2,728, which is really cool. Where's the applause? Really thankful for all of you who have contributed to that. It has been an amazing experience. So my goal had raised to 2,500. My miles goal had raised all the way to 500. I'm currently sitting at 321.59 miles. So I'm well on pace to make it. Thank you again to everyone who has contributed. If you would like to contribute, there is a QR code on the screen right now and a link in the show notes in the video description down below. I would still appreciate, even though I've technically achieved all my goals for money, I would really appreciate any additional input that you have. So thank you again to everyone who has contributed. With that, let's hop into the chat here real quick. Brandon, Media Picker. Yes, it has been a while. Of course, you just are starting a meeting. Yes, that's how it always works, isn't it? These 11 a.m. Wednesdays are probably not the best, but Kelly Debs, welcome. Fern Flips, good morning. Lord Jake Ryan, always good to see you. And Lindy Moo, welcome. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it very much. Let's hop in here and get into this reselling
news updates.
Bear with me. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm all out of sorts on what I need to click. Oh, goodness. All right, let's get back in here. So these three articles are all over on Value Added Resource. I've linked to them previously. If you're not following Liz over there, she is a fantastic resource for all the things going on in reselling. So definitely go check her out. This first article we're going to go over today, Etsy is gearing up for the holidays with what they claim are new tools and support for sellers. Gearing up, updated processes to trust and safety, new community experience coming to. They've really made a big push on that. If you're a seller on Etsy, you've seen they introduced their newsletter. They're making changes in their community, in their message boards and so on. So there's a ton of stuff going on over there. But let's get into smarter tools. They say they're enhancing their platform with those smarter tools. Shop Manager, sellers will now see a top tasks to help prioritize urgent actions, and the new Marketplace Insights tool powered by real Etsy data serves up buyer trends in a way to more effectively engage with them. They're also putting, again, the power of AI into sellers' hands with tools like title suggestions and writing assistant, which are things that other sites are also trying to do, which make it easier for them to clearly communicate with buyers and spend more time on the parts of their business that they love. Let me know what you think of those. Have you tried any of those new tools? If they've even rolled out, I'm, for my part, not inclined to use them. I'm happy with how my listing titles and descriptions are working out, so I probably won't avail myself of that. But in the tools category, they want to know what buyers are searching for right now. The Marketplace Insights helps you spot rising trends, choose the best keywords for your listings, and plan inventory with confidence, all based on real data. Let me look here at the chat just to make sure my microphone didn't go crazy like it did, was that 2 months ago? And there, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see here there's a really nice screen that shows kind of what that looks like, how many people are searching for it, what the number of listings for that thing is, so you can make a decision whether that's something that you really want to go after. So that's an interesting tool. You do, as a seller, get 15 free keyword searches per week so that you can use this tool. For those who want or need more insights, you can unlock unlimited access with an Etsy Plus subscription. We talked a few weeks ago about how it looked like Etsy was really going to make a push to kind of improve the services that Etsy Plus offered, and then to additionally try to monetize that by getting more people to join. This appears to be one of the approaches for that. They're offering you unlimited searches on this tool if you are a member of Etsy Plus. They say the tool is going to roll out over the next coming weeks, so jump in and check it out. They add there are new color themes coming for Etsy Plus and add improvements to make it easier for shoppers to find exactly what they're looking for, helping you make more sales. They say the offsite ad program continues apace. Probably half my sales on Etsy are from that program. So at least from that standpoint, their ad programs seem to be reasonably effective. On the community side, sellers in their ecosystem, they say, have always inspired and supported each other. This holiday season, they're offering up even more opportunities to connect. The biggest event of the year, Etsy Up, is back with engaging sessions to help sellers level up their shops. They're excited to introduce the first ever live after show where participants can learn from even more Etsy experts and ask questions in real time. And then next month, they're launching the new and improved Community Hub, complete with AI-powered search, once again, fresh educational resources, and a revamped Teams experience. There's a post in the Etsy community which says they'll be migrating existing community and forums content to this new system, though it's still unclear at this point whether the new Community Hub will be open and readable to everyone or will be like the existing one where you have to be registered with an active selling account, which they had done to try to weed out a lot of the spam and scam stuff. They're also making some additional changes in trust and transparency. They want to keep their marketplace safe and special, and they can't do it without the help of the community. Sellers have told us they want more transparency and guidance on how they can keep their shop in good standing, so they're adding a new dashboard in the Shop Manager that provides more insight. They're also piloting, they said, a new process that makes it easier to appeal enforcement decisions from trust and safety on individual listings, which has been a big problem that sellers have had on Etsy, where the bots, the AI, have flagged legitimate listings and items as either counterfeit or not genuine in some way and removed them. And the process to appeal that judgment has been really, really bad. In some cases, you can't get a hold of a person, and they are, to their credit, at least saying that they're going to try to fix that. They're introducing a new policy violations page in Shop Manager to help sellers track listing removals and any other issues on their accounts. You can check whether listings have been removed from that page, your full listing removal history, how many listings they have removed, clear, easy access to resources. Each removed listing links to resources that outline the relevant policies, which is helpful because a lot of times sellers have said they don't even know why a listing has been removed. So this will help, at least in theory, sellers identify why a listing was removed, and they will expand to include more in-depth details for policies over time and more timely updates. You'll receive notifications right in the Shop Manager if one of your listings is removed. So as soon as it's gone, you're going to get some kind of notification rather than having to wait and kind of find it out on your own. So lots of stuff going on over on Etsy. They are rolling all of this out over time, as is usually the case with these, but that's what's going on over at Etsy. Let's hop back here into the chat and say a few more good mornings. Bailey Banks, welcome. Black Cat Flips, good morning to you. Jeff, welcome. Thanks for coming by. Let's go back and start talking about Poshmark. There are a ton of changes coming over on Poshmark that have been kind of announced in two separate announcements. This first one, the announcement of PoshFest and some updates for offers, price suggestions, shows, listing photos, and more. There's a ton of stuff going on here. They've unveiled these new features, which again will be rolling out over the fall. Not all of this stuff is available now, and it probably won't all be available to everyone simultaneously. So let us know in the future if you've seen any of these or used any of them. Offers. Sellers can expect 2 new improvements to offers this year, they say, building on the recently introduced Smart Sell feature, which allows sellers to automate offers with minimum prices for acceptance. First, they're going to extend Smart Sell to offers to likers, according to the head of buyer and seller experience, Vanessa Wong. For people who are using it, they've asked if we can make Smart Sell even smarter. Can we go ahead and start doing offer to likers? So yes, they say that's what we're going to do. If you've turned on Smart Sell on your listings, whenever a shopper likes your item, we're going to send an offer on your behalf, and we'll continue to negotiate similar offers, similar to buyer offers. So this is something that other sites have done for some time with automated offer opportunities. Poshmark is now going to add that. They also announced, interestingly, that they're going to set the offer minimum to 40% of the listing price rather than 20% to discourage lowball offers. This is kind of an opposite approach to what Etsy does, where on Etsy, you as a seller can specify a maximum discount that you're willing to entertain. So in my case, I've set I don't even want to see offers that are more than 20% off my current listed price. Poshmark's doing it the opposite way. They allowed people to offer all the way up to 80% off of the listing price. Now that's going to be 60 or 40% of the listing price as a minimum. Let me know what you think of that. I personally feel like that should be up to the seller to set what they want to see or not. But they said, do many of you get frustrated when you get an offer at $20 for a $100 listing price? Yes. So what we're going to do is try to change it to 40%. Currently it's at 20. Anybody can make that $20 offer on a $100 item. We're going to change it to 40, they said. They kind of emphasized the word try, so we'll see how that goes. I'm sure they're getting a lot of feedback that is still too big of a discount. They're also going to start something called a price suggester. They'll soon suggest 2 different prices for items when sellers are creating a listing. One that they say will likely lead to a faster sale, and the other will be the estimated selling price for those who are willing to wait a little longer to try to get more money for their item. So if you're a flip fast and get rid of it and move on to the next, you'll get one price. And if you'd like to try to maximize a little bit of your profit, you'll get another price if you want to do it a little bit slower, but make a little more money. That's an interesting one as well. There are, obviously, those are the 2 competing business philosophies. I'm more of the slow dime, where other people are more fast nickel. Neither one is right or wrong, but they're definitely different philosophies. And this is an interesting way to kind of show people both of those options. They're also adding something in conjunction with Apple on iOS. You'll soon be able to take advantage of a new feature in the Poshmark app, enhancing the existing Posh Lens functionality with Apple Visual Intelligence. With the press of a button on your Apple device, you can snap a photo and it directly does an image search on Poshmark from your phone. If you have an iPhone 16, on the right side, they say you'll see a camera button. When you click on that, it opens up the camera. You can start taking a photo of any items, and you'll soon start seeing with the iOS 26 release, a Poshmark icon comes up on top. So this is a cool integration for those of you who are iOS users. Order merging for Posh shows. This is probably a big one. We're already do bundling for all the items that a shopper shops from a given show, but you like to have more. That's what we're going to do next. We'll allow you to merge multiple orders into a bundle. With access to the tool, you'll be able to shop more, market your closet, market your shows, and give options to the shoppers to buy more and more from you so that you can package it all into one and you don't have to pay multiple shipping. We're going to get into Poshmark shipping here in the next segment. They're making additional updates to listing photos. They're going to change photo aspect ratios from square to rectangular. That's an interesting one. All these sites keep messing with their photos. Over the last 15 years since the invention of smartphones, how many of you have taken anything but a portrait photo? Our life is captured in a portrait photo inside our camera roll, but when you come to Poshmark, the portrait photo doesn't work right. Whether you're taking it from a photo gallery or using the camera app on Poshmark, you have to fit everything into a square box. We're going to get rid of the square boxes and give you the entire camera to capture your item and merchandise the way you'd like to merchandise it. So that's kind of cool. They also say, and I'm not sure how people feel about this one, they'll also soon be automatically removing backgrounds on cover photos to present a clean and consistent experience for buyers in search and browse. I don't think it indicates whether this is an opt-in or opt-out availability. Again, I think that should be a seller's decision, whether you want, maybe you have curated a particular background that you want with your item, and now in your cover photo, Poshmark says they're automatically going to delete that background just to highlight the item. Not sure I'm a fan of that. You guys have taken all your cover shots. A lot of you are doing a good job, but they become very messy from a shopper point of view. They say when they go through all the search results, it doesn't give a clean professional look. So we're going to take a cover photo of yours. We're going to make a copy of it, and we're going to clean the background so that it gives a much cleaner and crisper look to the shoppers. Let me know what you think of that. They didn't say specifically that AI was going to do that, but I would have to assume it's some kind of AI or machine learning. Sellers, as you can imagine, were not particularly impressed. I think there's some really cool stuff there, but as I've talked about with eBay, on some with great regularity, to be fair, all of this stuff is really cool, but it doesn't address basic seller needs. It doesn't address basic site functionality, and that's what sellers were commenting on. Never seen a group of people more disconnected from the users on their platform here. Nothing here is what real sellers are asking for, said one. You know what we need? A working messaging system, an integrated bulk listing editor, faster payouts, closet vetting to get rid of the dead closets and make the site safer from spam and hackers, sufficient notice before major changes like buyer fees fail, and the shipping changes that always seem to happen in Q4. I don't think a single one of you have ever managed a reseller closet or shop, and it shows. Another one says, I want almost none of this. Don't touch my photos. Make features that help me make money. Another round of junk. Yet another, Poshmark, I love you, but all these updates are insulting to my intelligence. An offer floor, no serious seller cares. We just math and counteroffer. Image search updates, we're not stupid. We can describe a red coat, and if someone can't, Google already has a better search. AI updates, again, no serious seller cares, and we are adults and can write a paragraph about how lovely this item is. I do get the idea, as eBay has done, with the AI descriptions to help casual hobby sellers who don't do this on a regular basis, where that could be a useful tool. So I'm not as adamantly opposed to that maybe as a lot of folks are. But again, from the standpoint of the bulk of your sales come from your professional sellers who have specific needs, and none of these new updates really addresses any of those needs. So interesting stuff again over there. Let's hop back here into the chat before we get to the last update. Black Cat Flips. Any Poshmark sellers, have you gotten any free Ground Advantage boxes? I emailed for some, but haven't heard anything. That's our next topic, actually. Hope the background removing is opt-out. Never saw a background removal tool that looked right. Again, I've not used them. I know a lot of sellers do. If you are one of those and you're here in the chat, let us know what your experience is with it. I tend to be with Black Cat here. I don't think they work as well as people would like. Let me know what your thoughts are. Cameron, I'm against the background removal because A, it usually fails and cuts off parts, and B, I use the awesome backgrounds from eBay, so that'll ruin my best shots. Right, like I said, you curate how you want your cover photo to look to make it at least what you feel is the most appealing that it can be. And now they're just going to remove all the work that you did to create the listing the way you want it to be. I think that should be, again, opt-in or opt-out, one or the other. If you've been playing along for very long on this channel, you know I'm a big believer in opt-in. You introduce a new feature, let people opt in rather than making it the default and forcing people to opt out. But that's just me. Media Picker, I think that background removal tool makes the listing look not realistic. That's been one of my big issues with it too. It almost makes it look fake. And as a buyer, I tend to ignore a lot of those listings. So I don't know. I know they say that, you know, those images are cluttered and confusing for buyers. Maybe they've got some data that says that, but anecdotally, a lot of people that I talk to have that same exact opinion. The background removal tool makes the listing and the photo look like look like AI. It looks fake. And people are so suspect right now of anything AI that I don't think that's a great look, no pun intended. Oops. Let's go back in here with one last bit of news. Poshmark, as was just mentioned, is making a change to how they ship. They've made a deal with the United States Postal Service, which will switch all of their shipments to Ground Advantage with lower rates, and USPS is actually providing Ground Advantage boxes. Poshmark recently posted some additional information on this about the new policy and addressed problems some sellers are having in trying to order the free supplies. I know a lot of sellers were coming. They could not get through to try to order these supplies. Additionally, this all happened with super short notice. So you've got sellers who just ordered like boatloads of priority supplies for Q4 that now, as it turns out, they will not be able to use. Poshmark recently announced that shipping would decrease from $8.27 to $6.49. We've heard your feedback and they want to follow up with more information. This started September 12th. USPS may refuse Ground Advantage shipments with priority mail packaging at the post office counter or return it to the sender. So there was a very limited window of time where the post office was going to accept from Poshmark sellers Ground Advantage labeled priority boxes. That ship has sailed. You can't do that anymore. Starting on October 12th, the post office will charge a $5 fee for using priority mail packaging. This fee will be deducted from your redeemable balance. So initially there was some thought that maybe Poshmark was going to eat some of this fee beginning at least on October 12th. That's not going to be the case. If you put a Ground Advantage label on a priority mail box and USPS apparently elects to go ahead and forward that package, they are going to charge you a $5 surcharge, which makes the shipping more expensive than it was originally. So make sure that you're using either generic packaging or this new Ground Advantage packaging. We want to reassure you, they say that USPS is stocked with that Ground Advantage packaging, and they're actively working with the post office to improve the phone experience after reports of long wait times and confusions. There is a 800 number on the screen right now to request those packages, or you can email uspsposhmark@victorypackaging.com. You have to include your name, your Poshmark closet name. So importantly, these boxes apparently are only available if you are a Poshmark seller. I don't know that you necessarily can't use them for other things, but you apparently have to be a Poshmark seller to request these, at least through this number. Obviously, you'll have to provide your mailing address, your phone number, your email address, and the package quantity you need. There is a link in that article to take you to the site that shows you what sizes and so on are available. They said in the initial announcement, for the first time in over a decade, they're lowering the cost of shipping. Starting again on September 12th, the cost was going to drop to $6.49, their lowest rate since 2017. What's staying the same, you'll still get all the perks of Posh Post, our exclusive shipping system, flat rate shipping on every order, no guessing, no hidden fees, one label for anything up to 5 pounds, which is still a really good deal. The ability to use your own packaging, or obviously to get these dedicated USPS Ground Advantage packages, and you can still use the prepaid label or the QR code. Orders will ship with Ground Advantage rather than priority, which claims to have delivery in 2 to 5 business days. I don't use personally a lot of Ground Advantage, but when I have, it's been pretty good. It's not obviously priority speed, but it's not been terrible. Again, let me know in the chat or in the comments what your experience has been. If you already use your own packaging, there's nothing you need to change. If you've been using those priority mail materials, simply switch to any standard box or mailer. Don't know what to tell you about what to do with all those boxes that you already ordered for Q4. However, to make this transition easier, they say Poshmark sellers will have exclusive access to these free Ground Advantage boxes. I would assume at some point that will change, and like the priority supplies, that anybody will be able to go in and order them. But at least for the time being, it is an exclusive for Poshmark, which is, I guess, kind of cool. If you're a Poshmark seller. If you're not, like me, it's not going to be super helpful. So let me know what you think of any of that. That's kind of what's been going on. Those are the big announcements. Obviously, a ton of stuff going on at eBay. There have been some issues over there. I've had some people reach out to me about glitches and problems that they've had. There was a big scare last week with over on eBay, people getting account warnings that they had items that had been uploaded without tracking and all kinds of just wacky stuff going on over at eBay. Cameron says, love the new shipping. Shipping time is similar to priority, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, again, both of them are being billed as kind of 2 to 5 day services. I guess the big difference is that Ground Advantage does not have to guarantee that, where priority, they're kind of stuck with that. Let me know if you have tried to order any of the packaging from USPS and if you've run into any of these delays. So that is a wrap on the news. Let me know if there's anything else you would like to discuss about what's going on in the world of reselling. In the meantime, let's actually... Brandon's got a question here. How is everyone's sale? Was on fire till about a week ago. Had a few slower days. It picked back up yesterday. No sales and nothing today either. Let us know in the chat. How is your business? Again, the last time we all convened, we were just kind of getting out of the back to school time. I had commented that my sales were kind of soft, but in line with what I had experienced in years past during this time. My sales have since rebounded. My Labor Day weekend was probably my best holiday weekend ever. I had 61 packages over the weekend. This past weekend, I had 40 some. So my business has been high in volume. I've been listing a lot of kind of lower value stuff. So the dollar amount has been about the same. It's been super consistent. It's just been on more transactions. So Kelly Deb says, haven't had a single issue with Ground Advantage. It's been great. I've ordered the packaging, but it hasn't arrived yet. That was an issue I had on the couple of occasions where I ordered the priority mail boxes. It seemed like it took a long time for those to arrive, which is kind of weird. You would think the post office would ship their own stuff with the quickness, but that was not my experience. Kathy Eller, 20 minutes on hold, got through pretty easy. Young woman was just so happy. She made it very pleasant. Haven't received them yet. Chuck Witt, good morning. Good to see you. Black Cat Flips, definitely seeing an uptick, and I'm hopeful for Q4 on sales. Yeah, I think given everything else that's going on in the world, indications still feel like to me we're in line for what potentially is a pretty good Q4, so I'm reasonably happy with that. Media Picker says the positive is still up about 15% in gross sales over this time last year. I am up about 7 the last time I looked. Net margins are about flat because I've sold a lot of kind of lesser expensive stuff, and the shipping costs in relation to the total purchase price are higher than they were previously. So I'm kind of flat in profit while I'm up in sales year to date, but there are worse problems to have, I guess. So Mountain B23, welcome. Thanks for coming out. Sales are picking up, but so are the lowball offers with no response to counter offers. I did get a return because they found a better price. Those are the frustrating ones. And as we've talked about here previously, eBay has kind of started this thing where they're showing the exact same item or a very similar item to people who have made a purchase, and that's causing some cancellations and returns. So it's a real messy situation. I'm still really blessed with returns, as in not having many. I've had 3 in the last 3 months, 2 of which were requested, but the item was not returned. So I will definitely take that. I've got 1 currently pending that's about to expire that has also not been sent back. So books and media apparently are a category where there's just not a ton of returns. Let's hop back in here. I do have a few kind of what sold things. So let's have a look for those who might be interested in some of that. These are some things that sold in August that I never really recapped. So I've got this book, Poems by Agatha Christie from 1973. This was in fantastic condition. It looked like brand new. Published by Dodd Mead, listed for $29.99, sold at the end of the month on my 10% off sale for $26.99 plus shipping. I paid $3.28 in fees. Cost me 46 cents. This was part of a big, one of the two big summer purchases that totaled about 10,000 books. Net profit, $23.25. Warner's English Grammar and Composition, a teacher's manual for the complete course. This sold on eBay on a best offer for $31. Again, was part of that big purchase. Cost of goods sold, 46 cents. I made $21.47 after fees. And here's another one, same thing, Warner's English Grammar and Composition, teacher's manual, complete course, paperback from a different printing, from a different year. This sold also on eBay for $34.99. So these teacher manuals, if you're out and about and you see like textbooks, I've got a ton of these Warner's English Grammar and Composition, the actual textbook, and they typically are anywhere from like $8 to $12. But the teacher's manuals and the ones with the answer keys are worth 2.5 to 3 times that. So be on the lookout if you're a bookseller looking at textbooks and you can find any that have either the answer key or that specifically are teacher's manuals. Those can be really, really good. And again, especially if you can get them as cheap as I'm getting them, 46 to 50 cents a piece in bulk buys. Whoops, that's not the right button. Let's go back here. St. Anthony's Manual. This is a kind of like a prayer book from 1888. Was published by Frederick Pustet and Company from the Orders of Friars Minors something. It cuts off the title. Had it for $39.99. Received an offer of $35.99 and went ahead and sold that. $6.33 in fees, $3.06 in promoted listing fees. My total cost $17.74. I made $25.35 on this book from the 1800s. Willie Pogany's Oil Painting Lessons from 1954, published by the David McKay Company, an illustrated hardcover in its dust jacket, an art lesson book, real nice book in pretty good condition. Listed for $39.99, sold for $35.99 plus shipping. $4.27 in fees. This was another one out of that big lot. 46 cents was my cost of goods sold. $31.26. This is one of those under promise, over delivers. I listed this as acceptable because it had some wear on the cover. The pages were lightly tanned. The buyer got it and left a review on Etsy just raving that the book was in like new condition and what a great buy and so on. So again, my mantra, over promise, under promise rather, over deliver. I tend to grade super conservatively and get feedback that the item was, in some cases, people even say better than pictured, which I don't know how that works. Double Exposure, a twin autobiography by Gloria Vanderbilt and Thelma Furness from 1958. Hardcover in its dust jacket, again in fairly decent condition. Sold on an offer for $38. I think I had it listed for $42.99. $6.81 in fees, $3.31 in ad fees. Cost of goods sold, again, 46 cents, $27.42 on this one. Rising Trout by Charles Fox. This book was privately printed, a limited number edition. I think there were 1,500 of these that were printed. This was number 1145, a hardcover from, I want to say, the 1950s era. Listed for $42.99 on Etsy, sold for $38.69 on Etsy, plus shipping, $4.50 in fees, 50 cent cost of goods sold from another big bulk buy, $33.69 in profit. Another one on eBay, The 10-Week Garden by Carrie Scher from 1973 from a publishing company called Something Else Press. This was an illustrated paperback in pretty nice condition, given its age. Listed and sold for $39.99, also from that big 10,000 plus book purchase. So 46 cents, net profit on that one, $32.56. This is from a different big buy, The Personal House Homes of Artists and Writers by Betty Alswang and Amber Hyken. 1961, hardcover, full of really cool pictures of these old homes from the 1960s and then the 1950s. Listed and sold for $59.99. Cost of goods sold 50 cents. I paid $10.39 in fees. Net profit $49.10. This Star of England by Dorothy and Charlton Ogburn from 1952, an illustrated hardcover. Listed for, I think, $64.99, sold on an offer on eBay for $60 plus shipping. $10.42 in fees, $5.16 in promoted listing fees, $43.96 in net profit. And that is kind of the high points of the month of August for me. Let's get back here into the chat. Black Cat Flips asks if I've gotten my garage back yet. No, I have not. But I think I'm on track. I said when I got all those books that if I could get the side of the garage emptied where I park my vehicle before the snow flew, I would feel pretty good about that. And I have made great progress that I am almost to the back wall. I've moved some stuff kind of off to the sides that I think are lower value books that I'm kind of trying to save for the slower time of year, trying to get the better stuff taken care of. But I'm real close. I'm probably a month out from getting my garage back, which I'm really excited about. Because my neighbor, when he mows his grass, blows all his grass right on the side of my SUV. I need to have a chat, actually, with them. Black Cat Flips, my favorite top sale this month was a Ramones Rocket to Russia 8-track. Paid $5, sold for $55. The label was very worn, but it still played. Excellent. Those old 8-tracks, man. You find somebody that's got an old vintage car that's got an 8-track player in it, they can bring some pretty cool money. So that's a really good one. Nice. Landshock Picker, good morning. Thanks for coming by. Again, let me know if you have anything else that you would like to discuss, any particularly good sales, any particular problems with any of the platforms that we sell on. Always like to hear how people are doing on Mercari. My sales, again, have been up and down. I went a stretch of about 10 days with nothing. Then I had 2 individual sales, 2 multi-unit sales, and 2 offers, both of which I countered, one of which was accepted, and one of which wasn't. So Mercari is still kind of up and down, but consistently giving me a few $100s a month, enough to justify still being there. Let me know what your thoughts are on what's going on over at Mercari, if anything. How is, and again, a few people have commented, but how are sales? And are there particular sites that you seem to be doing better on than kind of your expectations? Have your numbers shifted? I know we talked about kind of at the end of the summer, there were some sellers who were making adjustments in where they were listing items. Sellers were leaving some sites to focus on others. Have you made any moves like that as you get ready to gear up for Q4? And have you made any changes to your business, your listing flow, the kind of things you're sourcing as you think about Q4, which is going to be here before we know it. It is literally weeks away, technically. Media Picker says, I finally received my first negative feedback ever out of over 9,500 lifetime sales. That's, hey, good on you for only having one. Most people would be ecstatic to have one on 9,500 sales. That's pretty amazing. Mine, I've got one in the last year that was a negative, and with the addition, and again, let me know what your opinion is on this, with the addition of all of the now automated feedback that eBay is providing, my feedback number has just gone through the roof, because as we talked about, in my case, maybe 40% of the buyers are leaving feedback. Now with automated feedback, you're essentially getting 100% feedback. And I have got literally hundreds of automated feedbacks already. And it has taken me now to a place in my feedback score where that one hanging negative, which is about to expire anyway, is not enough to have me at 99.9% positive. I actually bumped up to 100% positive yesterday, even though I've still got that one out there. So sorry about the negative, but don't sweat it. What do they say? If you're not getting bad reviews, you're not doing it right. So Callie Deb says, Etsy was great for me last week. Overall sales are slow this week so far. Yeah, like I said, I had a terrific weekend. And then things kind of just went back to normal. Monday, Tuesday, in the teens, which is about where I normally am. This morning, I think I've got 2 sales so far, which is not great, but it's early. I've sent out a bunch of offers, so we'll see how that goes. Media Picker says, liking the automated feedback. I think it masks the bad sellers, though. I think if a buyer has a bad experience, as is the case with anything on the internet, if you have something negative to say, you're much more inclined to go and either leave negative feedback or leave a comment on Yelp or on a Facebook group or whatever the case may be. So I feel like this automated feedback is more to help good sellers kind of show that they're good sellers by reducing the impact of those random negatives. And as we talked about on the last show, to help kind of mitigate the fact that their eBay in particular is going to be a lot less forgiving in terms of removing feedback going forward. They've made it pretty clear that because of certain, I think it's FCC regulations, or maybe it's the Federal Trade Commission, but prohibiting like fake reviews. There's a lot of sensitivity about getting people to edit or change reviews because that may lead to some questions about authenticity or whether there's any kind of quid pro quo. So they're being a lot more reticent to edit or remove feedback. I would expect that that is only going to get worse as time goes on, especially now with this change where they're automating good feedback for the bulk of your transactions. Fern Flip says, had a great weekend. The last couple of days been very slow. How many people list on the weekends? I've noticed I was doing this thing where I list my whatever 120, 130, 140 items during the week, and sometimes I would do some listings on Saturday morning, and I've kind of stopped doing that, and I've found that as a result of that, it feels like, anecdotally, like Monday and Tuesday are a little bit slower than they were previously because I'm not listing anything on the weekend. And then by Wednesday, usually things are picking back up because I've done 30, 40, 50 listings on Monday and Tuesday. So let me know if that's a trend that you've noticed, if you list on weekends, if you've done it and then stopped, if you saw any change. It's one of those weird things. Bailey Banks says, I have over 200 items on Mercari. Seen a few sales since they started the auto offer to likers feature, but they're usually for lower price offers. Fingers crossed, hopefully things will improve. As we talk about here all the time, I really would like Mercari to be a more integral part of my business. I've got, I think when I looked last, 9,500 or 9,600 listings on Mercari, and I'm selling maybe 5 items a week. So I'd really, really like Mercari to pick up over there, but it kind of is what it is. Media Picker says, it's crazy. I'm still seeing sellers in the 70s and 80s percentile in positive feedback percentage. Yeah, as I do product research, you'll find that a lot. It is amazing. I did a whole episode on it a couple of years ago. It's interesting to me, and I guess I get it with some of the bigger sellers that they have, like, tens of thousands or millions of transactions. It's hard to keep everybody happy, and you see some of those kind of in the mid 90s. But some of these smaller sellers that are at 70, 80, sub 95%, that can be a real problem for your business. I like to keep mine 99+%. I will do everything I can in the case of a negative or a neutral feedback on the rare occasions I get them to reach out to the buyers to try to find out. And a lot of times you can't even get connected with them to find out what it was that was a problem so that I can either fix it going forward or make an effort to make amends on that. For instance, I had one the other day. Buyer reached out, bought a CD. The package was for a promo CD single for a particular band that was supposed to have 4 tracks on it. When I listed it almost 4 years ago, I opened it up, took a picture of the inside, was the right band, had the right title, but I didn't do my due diligence and check to make sure that it had all 4 tracks on it. It looked right, so I took the picture and moved on to the next thing. 4 years later, somebody bought it. they got it, and it turns out that it was a promo single, but it wasn't the right one. It was a one song version of this thing. He reached out to me by message, said, "Hey, it's only got the one song on it." So I sent him a message back right away. I'm like, hands up, that's my bad. He sent me a picture of what he got. I matched it against the picture of what I had taken pictures of when I listed originally. I was like, yep, that's my fault. I didn't notice it wasn't the right CD in the case. I'm going to refund you in full, and you can just keep it or discard it, whatever you want to do. Boom. Negative, neutral feedback averted. The guy was like thrilled. He's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you. I made a mistake. You got to own it. Nobody's perfect. We all do it. And that kind of customer service helps eliminate, when you get the opportunity to do it. A lot of people just go and they leave negative feedback right away. He sent me the wrong thing. And then you've got to reach out and try to fix it. And then you got to try to reach out again and get feedback revision. So anything you can do, especially if the customer reaches out in advance, proactively to make that thing right, is helpful for your feedback score. Black Cat Flip says we can thank Amazon reviews for that. Absolutely. It is a rampant problem on Amazon. People, I've had several like little tech things that I've bought. I bought a set of bone induction headphones for my cycling, so they don't go in your ear, they go kind of on your jawbone. They reached out after I had bought them and said if I would leave a positive 5-star review on the item, they would send me a $25 Amazon gift card. The headphones were only like $22, so of course I left a review. Give me that 25 spot. But that kind of stuff is technically, as far as I know, it's a violation of Amazon's terms of service, and it is certainly something that the FTC would take a dim view of because it is a bought review. So, but yes, Amazon has very much caused that to be the problem. Media Picker says, haven't sold anything on Mercari in months, but I have less than 10% of my total listed amounts there. The only time I don't list to Mercari, and I don't know what the glitch is, 2 or 3 times a week probably, when I try to cross list on the web with List Perfectly, Mercari just won't load, and then I can't get it to load, and I don't wait around for it to finally load. I just move on with life and don't put those things up there. But most everything I list on eBay, because it's free to list on Mercari, I go ahead and put them over there anyway. You just never know. Books in particular does not seem to be a good category on Mercari. I personally had really good luck when I was doing a lot of Blu-rays and 4K DVDs and CDs. I was actually doing fairly well on Mercari until I sold through kind of the best inventory, and now it's, crickets. But I did really well, particularly with Blu-rays on Mercari. Cameron says, my feedback in the last month doubled because of the auto feedback. Not sure I care. No, it's not, like I said, it helps to counterbalance those random negatives that you might get that you can't get removed, that may or may not be justified. The feedback score, it's really not that big a deal, other than that number shows a potential buyer. Like Brandon Media Picker just commented, I got 2 items to choose from. One is from a seller that has 99+% positive feedback, and maybe is 50 cents more or $1 more than the other seller who is less but only has 70 feedback. Which one are you going to buy from? So hopefully this automated feedback will help both buyers and sellers kind of identify who's doing it right and give a boost to those of us and those of you who are doing it right. Chuck Witt says, how do you manage your what seems to be almost daily lengthy bike rides with still having time to list for those who feel we don't have enough time in the day? So I start listing at about 6:30 in the morning. So there is that. Typically my day, I start around 6:30. I work up until lunchtime, get some lunch. I work another hour or 90 minutes. I don't really take a long lunch. And by 2 o'clock, I'm kind of wrapping up for the day. And then that's when I go ride. Weekends are when I try to do the longer ones. If you're following me over on Instagram or on my other channel, my cycling channel, you know, my 35, 40 plus mile rides are typically on the weekends. During the week, generally it's 20 to 30 miles, which I can knock out in a couple of hours. So it's not that hateful. But that's pretty much my day. I get done with the ride, I cool down, whatever, have dinner, and it's 7 o'clock. But it's one of those things that, knowing that I had pledged initially 300 miles and now 500 miles, I've kind of planned it into my calendar that at least X number of days I've got to go ride. I've got 2 boys who have football games on Thursday nights, so Thursday is a day I can't ride. I try to do 2 rest days a week, so I know I've got 5 days a week that I need to ride. And, like I do with my listing goals, I mapped out how many miles a day do I have to ride to hit this number. If I do a couple of longer rides, what can I get away with on some of the shorter ones? And then you just put it on the calendar and get out there and do it. It doesn't hurt that I love being out on the bike. Even on Zwift, on the indoor trainer, I really enjoy just getting the exercise and being able to kind of focus on something else other than life, reselling, the world, chaos that's around us, and so on. So not to get into too much with all that, but yeah, just kind of budgeting into the day has been helpful. Lindy Moo just checked my feedback. My 1 negative dropped off, back to 100 positive. Congratulations. That's awesome. It is not impossible to do. I know a lot of sellers feel like, you can't have 100% on your selling metrics. You can't have 100% feedback. And it is very, very difficult, but it is doable. I'm currently on my 3rd month in a row where my seller metrics are at 100%. No late shipments, none of the stuff they track in the negative. And like I said, I've got 1 negative and maybe 5 or 6 neutrals in the last year on feedback. So you can set yourself up for success. It's things we've talked about here before, offering free returns, communicating with your buyers, making efforts to make things right, making sure your listings are good and accurate. They're descriptive. You've got good photos. You're revealing all the flaws. All of those things set you up. So, and again, like I said an hour ago, under promise, over deliver, grade conservatively so that the buyer is thrilled with the thing that they got, rather than over promising that this thing is like new. I see this all the time. Somebody will have a picture of a hardcover book from the 1950s that the dust jacket is literally falling apart, and they've got it listed as like new. That item is not like new. It may be in good condition considering its age, but it's not like new. And I, as a buyer, I look at that picture and I look at the description and I'm instantly turned off. Whereas if you go the other way and you say that thing is acceptable, and they get it and they're like, you know what, this dust cover's not that bad, this is really in good condition, that's a good seller. So, and not only does that prevent returns and bad feedback, it generates repeat business. Every single day when I'm going through my orders, I see that little repeat buyer flag over and over and over again. So, and that is the key kind of to growing your business. If you can keep people coming back for more, if you can get them to follow your store, be it on Poshmark or eBay or Mercari, and see your new listings, once a week or whatever, that all goes toward making your business more successful. I'll get off my soapbox. Beard King Picker, good morning. We are about at an hour, so I'll make this last call for anybody who has anything that they would like to comment on or ask questions about. A quick shameless plug once again. We just talked about the cycling. I am riding in the Great Cycle Challenge to raise money for the Children's Cancer Research Fund. I've currently raised about $2,700. I'd really like to get to $3,000, just because it's a nice round number. I have ridden 300 and almost 22 miles so far of my 500 miles pledged. I've got a plan to do about 24 more today. So I'm on track, currently on pace for almost 600 miles. So Barring injury, this should be in the bag, but if you would be inclined to give, you can scan the QR code that's been on the screen, or there is a link in the show notes and the video description down below. Chuck Witt says, thank you for raising money for such a great cause. Perfect timing. Just think if each of your listeners would donate $5 or $10 for the cause. Yes, I said when I did one of these earlier, no contribution is too small. I have several people who have given $10, and that is terrific. If I could get, everybody here that's participated in this show and that's watched to give $10, I'd get to my 3,000. So it doesn't take a lot. It takes a village. It takes a community like this to support that. And many of you have already given, and I appreciate it very much. Bernadette says, how do you tell if a negative is impacting your rating? What do you mean they fall off? 7-year eBay seller, super thankful. I've had a couple of neutrals. So anytime you get a negative, neutrals do not count. But you've got your feedback score and it shows a percentage, 100%, 99.9%, whatever that number is next to your score. So if you've got 1 negative and 99 positive, you would be at 99% positive feedback. Those feedbacks last for a year. So that in terms of calculating your percentage. So you'll see your feedback score continues to go up. It's 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000, whatever. That number continues to go, but your percentage is only based on feedback given during the last year. So if during the last year you had 999 positives and 1 negative, you're going to show at 99.9% positive until that 1 negative drops off, and then you'll go to 100. So hopefully that helps. Beard King Picker says, trying to list my death pile so I can find my road bike. Absolutely. Like we said, you weren't here yet, but somebody asked if I was back in my garage yet, because my SUV is still parked in my driveway from my big buys from back earlier in the summer. And I'm not quite there yet, but it's getting there. Playroom says, best of luck with the biking stuff. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been great for my health. I talked about it some time ago. I started riding again after a couple of years off in January. I have ridden over 3,800 miles since January, combination of indoor and outdoor biking. I've lost about 20 pounds. My resting heart rate is down about 9 beats a minute on average. I've got the Garmin watch and the Garmin, bike computer, and all of my measurable statistics that Garmin tracks, which is a trove of stuff, have all improved over that time. So it's been great for my physical health, which for me is great for my mental health. When I can be active and outdoors and staying busy, it definitely helps me kind of stay sharp and stay in a reasonably good mood. So it's been a fantastic year. And I've not, knock wood, I've not wrecked the bike. Absolutely, you're welcome. Glad it was helpful. All right, my friends, as always, thank you for coming by. 20 pounds, yeah. It was not really my intention. I was kind of okay with my weight, but I just don't seem to be able to eat enough. I've reached that equilibrium now where my rides and my workouts are matching the amount of food I'm eating. So I've kind of stabilized at about 168 pounds, which is maybe 5-10 pounds lighter than I'd like to be, but I feel good. I'm able to do the work that I want to do on the bike, so I'm going to run with it, and we'll see what happens this winter. But having the Zwift indoor bike should be super helpful. Shameless plug, if you're not watching my cycling channel, there's a link for that in the show notes and the video description down below for the Great Cycle Challenge. I'm actually posting some kind of video for every ride I do for that challenge this month, so you can go check those out. And I'm also, whether I ride on Zwift and do a workout or a race, or I'm out on an actual bike path, I am doing videos for a lot of those as well, so you can kind of see where I'm riding and kind of get a chance to just listen to some relaxing music and watch a bike ride. Jeff says, much appreciated stream. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you coming out. I know I haven't been super regular. Part of it is all these bike rides. About doing episodes. I appreciate how all of you have stuck with me subscriber count, unbelievably, really is actually up, even though I haven't been doing a lot of videos. So I appreciate all of you who come out for these lives on Wednesday morning, all of those of you who come out and catch them on Team Replay, who comment, who share, who participate in the chat. It means the world to me, and hopefully it does to all of you as well. With that, my friends, it is time to sell. Bailey says, thank you. Kelly Debs, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you all for coming out. Until next time, my friends, it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.